the line about "they even broke into my safe" with the exclamation point, for me, is the element in the Donald Trump statement tonight that says the most. He seems shocked by that. This is inconceivable to him. Although this kind of thing couldn't have happened without his lawyers having plenty of hints that this kind of thing was going to come if you continue to resist this investigation or not cooperate in whatever way he was not cooperating.
Sure, and I agree, Lauren. So that was the tell right there, that even though, of course, Donald was informed ahead of time. And first of all, I just wanted to say, if the FBI has a search warrant, they're not really breaking in. They're just doing their job and getting the information they're entitled to because it's been withheld from them. But this is just another example in a very long line of examples of Donald's narcissism and sense of entitlement. He may have been told it was coming, but he could not possibly believe it was coming because it never has. So I think that's where that panic is coming from. And of course, he's also pivoting where he always pivots, to undermining the legitimacy of any investigation into his potential wrongdoing.
How is your uncle going to sleep tonight?
Well, probably as well as he always does, which is to say, not well, because, there's been so many things dogging him in the last many years. He was in New York today because he needs to sit for a deposition in another case. So it's all coming sort of fast and furious, and has been for quite some time.
We also learned more today, and this is something that we were going to discuss at greater length tonight, through Peter Baker and Susan Glass's reporting in their new book, about Donald Trump's relationship to the military while he was in the White House. But there's this very telling moment about how he thought his relationship with the military should work. This is a passage about that. The president's loud complaints to John Kelly one day was typical. "You effing generals, why can't you be like the German generals?" "Which generals?" Kelly asked. "The German generals in World War II, Trump responded. "You do know that they tried to kill Hitler 3 times and almost pulled it off," Kelly said. But of course, Trump did not know that. No. They were totally loyal to him, the president replied. And so, Mary, there's the typical Donald Trump ignorance built into that, having no idea that General Rommel himself was a participant in an attempt to assassinate Hitler, as were others. So there's the ignorance. And then there's this affection, admiration for the way Hitler did it.
Yeah, well, that's something we've known about for a long time. And it just, I think, should remind us that, first of all, Donald has always been contemptuous of service members, but has also put on a pedestal generals and admirals and what have you him. That's what people are for, to be loyal to him, to do his bidding. So that probably came as a bit of a shock. So between that and the ignorance of history you point to, and his clear affection for the autocrat, for the authoritarian, which again is not news. We lay that at the feet of the Republican Party. They knew all of this about him as well. And instead of doing everything in their power to make sure that he did not receive the nomination in 2016, they went all in. So they're completely responsible for the fact that we are in the mess we're in now. And I don't think we should let that slide.
My sense of your uncle and his audacity levels is that, a man I don't know, is that he makes a judgment, this kind of animalistic judgment about just how bold is the other person, and that he can outbold the other person and bold that person into submission. And here I'm thinking about Merrick Garland. And I suspect that Merrick Garland's public aspect, his public demeanor, this kind of bookish man, legal scholar type, looks like a professor. To Donald Trump, this is a very boring, timid human being. And Donald Trump makes the assessment, this guy is not bold enough to come after me. And so Donald Trump can be surprised today that Merrick Garland sent the FBI right into Donald Trump's home.
Absolutely. I mean, Merrick Garland is the epitome of the kind of man that Donald is contemptuous of, right? So it never occurred to him that Garland would have the intestinal fortitude to, well, not go after him, to do his job, quite honestly, and hold Donald accountable. So it also serves as a reminder that Donald Trump is a private citizen. And this may be the very first time in his life that he is not protected. So finally, at long last, he is in a position where he too can be served a subpoena, sorry, not a subpoena, a search warrant by the FBI, thanks to Merrick Garland.
You've watched him get away with things that have offended you your entire life, things just within family exchanges that have nothing to do with anything legal. Then you've also watched him through his businesses and through his political career. How do you feel tonight with this news that his home was raided by the FBI?
I don't want to get ahead of anything, Lawrence, as you know, and many of your guests have said, there's a lot we don't know. But I feel that it is vindicating that finally Donald has been not held accountable so much, but as treated like somebody who is not above the law. That's a long time coming. And again, I think it's a little too early for Schadenfreude, but at least now we know that the playing field is a little more level than it was before tonight.